I'm 74 years old, and for 31 years I've carried a secret that's eaten away at me every single day. A secret about family, about belonging, about the most selfish thing I've ever done. My name is Daniel Kerr. I was a meteorologist, ran a private weather station on 80 acres of isolated land in the Olympic Peninsula, spent my career studying storms, documenting atmospheric conditions, tracking the violent beauty of weather systems as they moved across the Pacific Northwest. In August of 1986, I found something during a thunderstorm. Something impossible. A baby. An infant Bigfoot, maybe 18 months old. Soaked and terrified and alone in the chaos of the storm. I should have left it there. Should have let nature take its course. But I didn't. I took it home. I raised it. For 7 years, I kept it hidden from the world while pretending to live a normal life. I taught it. I loved it. I made it mine. And then in June 1993, its real family came back. Came back to the exact spot where they'd lost their child 7 years earlier. Still searching, still hoping, still grieving. And I had 3 hours to decide. Give back what was never mine to keep, or destroy a family that had already been broken once. This is the story of how I stole 7 years from a creature that trusted me, and how I learned that love, real love, means letting go even when it destroys you. Even now, 31 years later, I don't know if I made the right choice. I was 47 years old in the summer of 1986, divorced 3 years. My wife Linda had left me in 1983, tired of the isolation, tired of living 40 minutes from the nearest town, tired of being married to a man who cared more about barometric pressure readings than conversation. She wasn't wrong. I'd built my entire life around distance and solitude. My weather station required it. Sensitive instruments measuring wind speed, precipitation, atmospheric pressure, all calibrated for precision data collection. I couldn't have neighbors, couldn't have interference, couldn't have anyone disrupting the careful systems I'd built. My work was everything. Publishing data to the National Weather Service, providing forecasts to regional airports, consulting for forestry services during fire season. I was good at it, respected, but completely alone. The property was 80 acres of dense Pacific Northwest forest. My house sat in a small clearing, surrounded by Douglas fir and western red cedar, with my equipment array spread across the yard, anemometers, rain gauges, temperature sensors, all connected to my data center in the basement. I saw other people maybe twice a month. Colleagues would visit quarterly for equipment maintenance and calibration. I'd drive into town for supplies every few weeks, but mostly it was just me and the storms. I told myself I preferred it this way, that I was built for solitude, that the science was enough. But the truth was, I was lonely in a way that had calcified into something permanent. I'd stopped hoping for connection, stopped believing I was capable of it. The instruments didn't judge me. The data didn't need me to be anything other than precise. I'd convinced myself that was enough to build a life on. By the summer of 1986, I'd been alone on that property for 3 years. The divorce had been brutal, not because Linda was cruel, but because she was right. She'd asked me once, "When was the last time you looked at me the way you look at a weather map?" I couldn't answer, didn't have an answer. After she left, I doubled down on the work, installed more equipment, published more data, took on more consulting contracts, anything to fill the silence. But at night, when the data was logged and the instruments were running and there was nothing left to measure, the silence was unbearable. The house creaked, the forest breathed, and I sat alone, wondering if this was all my life would ever be. I wasn't suicidal, wasn't depressed in any clinical sense, just hollow, going through motions that had stopped meaning anything beyond their mechanical completion. I needed something, anything, some reason to be more than just a man recording numbers that no one but other meteorologists would ever read. I just never imagined that reason would arrive during a thunderstorm, terrified and helpless and impossibly not human. August 14th, 1986. A severe thunderstorm cell moved across the Olympic Peninsula just after midnight. I'd been tracking it since 9 p.m. Classic Pacific Northwest summer storm, unusual intensity, moving fast from the southwest. By 1 a.m., it was directly overhead. Lightning splitting the sky every few seconds. Thunder shaking the windows. Rain coming down in sheets so heavy my exterior cameras couldn't see more than 10 feet. I was in my data center, monitoring readings, when the power went out. The backup generator kicked in immediately, but I needed to check the remote sensors, make sure nothing had been damaged by lightning strikes. I grabbed my rain gear and flashlight and headed out into the storm. The rain was deafening, wind gusting to 40 miles per hour. I could barely see through my rain-streaked glasses as I made my way toward the equipment shed where my backup battery array was stored. That's when I heard it, a sound that didn't belong to the storm. A cry, high-pitched, distressed. Animal, but not like any animal I recognized. I swung my flashlight toward the sound. At first I thought it was a bear cub, small, dark, wet, huddled against the side of my equipment shed. But as I got closer, maybe 15 feet away, my brain started registering details that didn't make sense. The proportions were wrong, the arms too long, the face too flat, and the eyes, even in the darkness, even through the rain, those eyes were too intelligent, too aware, too human to belong to a bear. It was a baby Bigfoot, had to be, maybe 18 months old, no more than 2 feet tall, covered in dark brown hair that was plastered to its body, shivering violently. And it was looking at me with absolute terror. I stood frozen, rain hammering down on both of us. Lightning flashed, illuminating the creature in stark white light. I got a clear look at its face, broad and flat with a small nose and wide-set eyes that reflected my flashlight like an animal's but showed comprehension like a child's. Its mouth was open slightly, making that distressed crying sound. Its tiny hands, not paws, were pressed against the shed wall like it was trying to make itself smaller, less visible. It was a baby, an infant, alone in a storm that would kill it if it stayed out here much longer. My scientific mind was screaming that this wasn't possible, that Bigfoot didn't exist, that I was seeing things, misidentifying something in the dark and rain. But my gut knew. This was real. This was happening. And this baby was going to die if I didn't do something. I should have left it. Should have let nature handle this. Should have gone back inside, logged my data, and pretended I'd seen nothing. But I couldn't. I physically couldn't leave a baby to die in a storm, even a baby that shouldn't exist. I knelt down slowly, making myself smaller, held out one hand. The infant recoiled, pressing harder against the shed. "Hey," I said softly, though the storm nearly drowned out my voice. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The creature watched me, shivering so hard its whole body shook. I stood up slowly and backed away toward my barn, a larger structure 50 feet from the house where I stored equipment and tools. I opened the barn door, turned on the interior light, and stood in the doorway where the creature could see me. Then I waited. It took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of standing in the rain while the storm raged, waiting to see if this terrified baby would trust me enough to follow. Finally, it moved, crawled toward the barn on all fours, stopped, looked at me, crawled closer. When it reached the barn door, I stepped aside, let it enter first. Then I followed and closed the door behind us, sealing out the storm. Inside the barn, the creature stood upright, unsteady, wobbly, but clearly bipedal. It looked around with wide eyes, taking in the space. Then it looked at me and made that crying sound again. Distressed, lost. I grabbed an old blanket from my workbench and approached slowly. The creature tensed but didn't run. "I'm just going to dry you off," I said softly. "Okay? Just get you warm." I wrapped the blanket around its small body and began gently patting it dry. The creature allowed this, watching my face the entire time. Its hair was coarser than I expected, more like wire than fur. Beneath it, the skin was dark and warm to the touch. When I was done, the creature pulled the blanket tighter around itself, stopped shivering as much. I found some beef jerky in my tool cabinet, kept there for long maintenance days, and held out a piece. The creature sniffed it, then took it with surprising delicacy, ate it slowly, watching me. We sat like that for maybe an hour. Me on an overturned bucket, the creature wrapped in a blanket on the barn floor, occasionally accepting pieces of jerky. Outside, the storm gradually moved east. The rain lightened. The thunder faded. When the storm finally passed, around 3 a.m., I opened the barn door and looked out at the forest. Expected to see something. The baby's family. Its mother. Something. But there was nothing. Just darkness and dripping trees, and my weather equipment standing silent in the aftermath. The creature came to stand beside me, still wrapped in the blanket. It looked out at the forest, too. Made a soft sound. Not crying now. Something else. Something that sounded like confusion. Like it was asking, "Where is everyone?" I looked down at this impossible baby. This creature that shouldn't exist. Alone. Orphaned by a storm. And I made a decision I would question for the rest of my life. "You can stay here tonight," I said. "Just until we figure this out." That night turned into 7 years. For 3 days, I searched the forest. Every daylight hour, I walked grid patterns across my 80 acres and beyond, looking for any sign of the creature's family. Tracks, vocalizations, anything. I found nothing. The storm had been unusually severe. Flash flooding had eroded creek beds. Lightning had struck at least 4 trees on my property. It was the kind of storm that would scatter animals, force them to seek shelter far from their normal territory. The baby's family was gone, either dead or driven so far away they couldn't find their way back, which left me with an impossible situation. An infant Bigfoot living in my barn, entirely dependent on me for survival. On the 4th day, I accepted reality. This creature wasn't going anywhere, and I couldn't let it starve or die of exposure while I waited for a family that might never return. I started bringing regular food to the barn. Fruits, vegetables, cooked meats. The creature ate everything except processed foods, tried a cracker once, spat it out immediately. looked at me with obvious disgust. I set up a space heater for nighttime, brought blankets, created a small nest in the corner where the creature could sleep, and slowly, carefully, I started spending time there, not forcing interaction, just being present, reading my meteorology journals while the creature watched me from its nest. Sometimes it would creep closer, curious. Sometimes it would retreat, but gradually, day by day, the fear faded. By the second week, the creature was following me around the barn, watching everything I did with intense curiosity. When I'd fix equipment, it would sit nearby, observing. When I'd organize tools, it would hand me things. Incorrectly at first, but learning quickly what I needed. It was impossibly intelligent, not animal intelligence, something closer to human toddler cognition, understanding causality, showing intention, problem solving. One morning, I was repairing a damaged rain gauge in the barn. The creature was watching from a few feet away. I needed a specific wrench that was on the workbench behind me. "I need the crescent wrench," I said without thinking, not really talking to the creature, just narrating my actions like I always did when working alone. The creature stood up, walked to the workbench, looked at the tools, and picked up the crescent wrench, brought it to me. I stared at it. Did you understand what I said?" The creature tilted its head, made a soft grunt, held out the wrench. I took it with shaking hands. "Thank you," I whispered. The creature made that grunting sound again, then sat back down to watch me work. 3 weeks in, I made a decision. If this creature was going to live here, and it seemed like it was, it needed a name, something better than the creature, or it. I was standing in the barn doorway one evening watching a line of cumulus clouds build to the west, beautiful formations, towering thousands of feet. The creature came to stand beside me, looking at the same sky. "Those are called clouds," I said, pointing. "That specific type is cumulus. They form when—" The creature made a sound, sharp and deliberate, almost like it was trying to mimic the word "cluh." I looked down at it. "Cloud. Cluh," the creature repeated. My chest tightened. "Cloud," I said again. "Your name is Cloud." The creature looked up at me, made that sound again, clearer this time. "Cloud." I knelt down to its level. "I'm Daniel," I said, pointing to myself. "Daniel." The creature touched my chest where I was pointing. "Daniel," it said, rough, imperfect, but unmistakably my name. I put my hand on its small shoulder. "Cloud," I said. "You're Cloud." It nodded, actually nodded. Human gesture, human understanding. That night, I sat in my data center staring at temperature readings without really seeing them. I had a Bigfoot living in my barn. A baby Bigfoot that understood language, that was learning to communicate, that had chosen to stay with me. This wasn't temporary anymore. This wasn't just waiting for the family to return. This was something else entirely. I was raising it, teaching it, bonding with it in a way that transcended species. And the terrifying part, the part I couldn't admit to anyone, not even myself, was that I was happier than I'd been in years. The isolation didn't feel crushing anymore. The silence was filled with purpose. Someone needed me. Someone looked at me with trust and affection and dependency. I'd spent 3 years alone convincing myself I didn't need connection. Cloud proved I was wrong. Over the following months, Cloud grew rapidly. By 6 months old, now early 1987, the creature was the size of a 4-year-old human child. Still young, still dependent, but stronger and more coordinated. Cloud learned the property boundaries, learned to stay hidden when I had visitors. The first time colleagues came for quarterly maintenance in November 1986, I locked Cloud in the barn with food and water and prayed it would stay quiet. It did. Sat silently for 6 hours while I worked with my team, calibrating instruments and reviewing data. When they finally left, I found Cloud sitting exactly where I'd left it, patient and trusting. "Good job," I said, relief flooding through me. "You did so good." Cloud stood and wrapped its arms around my waist. A hug. Unprompted. Affectionate. I hugged back, my eyes stinging. By spring 1987, Cloud was too big to hide in the barn indefinitely. The creature needed more space, more stimulation, more activity. I started letting Cloud outside at night, just after sunset, before the moon was too bright. We'd walk the property together, Cloud exploring while I checked equipment. Cloud was fascinated by my instruments, would stop and stare at the anemometer spinning in the wind, would watch the rain gauge fill during light precipitation, would gently touch the temperature sensors like they were precious objects. One evening in April, I was replacing batteries in a remote sensor station near the tree line. It required climbing a 10-foot ladder to reach the housing unit mounted on a pole. I was halfway up when Cloud made a concerned sound. I looked down. The creature was gripping the ladder base, holding it steady. "Thanks, buddy," I said. "Good thinking." Cloud nodded, kept holding the ladder until I was safely down. Then Cloud made a questioning grunt and pointed up at the sensor station. "You want to see?" I asked. Cloud nodded eagerly. I hesitated. The creature was big enough now, maybe 4 feet tall, strong enough to climb. But if Cloud damaged the equipment, Cloud must have seen my hesitation, made a soft sound and very carefully touched the ladder, then looked at me, asking permission, promising care. "Okay," I said, "but be gentle." Cloud climbed the ladder with surprising grace, reached the sensor station and examined it closely without touching, looked at the solar panel, the battery housing, the sensor array, then climbed back down carefully. "Pretty cool, right?" I said. Cloud made an excited sound, pointed to another sensor station across the clearing. "You want to check that one too?" Cloud nodded vigorously. We spent the next hour visiting every sensor station on the property. Cloud examining each one with careful attention, learning what they did, how they worked, why they mattered. My isolated scientific work had become a shared experience. In May 1987, something remarkable happened. I woke one morning to find a gift on my porch, a perfect sphere of mud and moss, roughly the size of a baseball, carefully formed. Beside it were 3 feathers arranged in a pattern. Cloud's work. Had to be. The creature had left me a gift. I carried it carefully into the barn where Cloud was already awake. "Did you make this for me?" Cloud nodded, looking pleased. "It's beautiful," I said honestly. "Thank you." That opened a floodgate. Cloud started leaving gifts regularly, interesting rocks, unusual pieces of bark. Once, a perfectly intact bird's nest. The creature was trying to communicate affection through objects. So I started reciprocating. I'd bring Cloud books with pictures, nature photography, weather phenomena, animals. Cloud would spend hours studying the images, making soft sounds of wonder. I brought music, classical mostly. Cloud loved Debussy, would sit completely still listening to Claire de Lune, eyes closed. I brought a small chalkboard and chalk, started teaching Cloud to draw. The first attempts were scribbles, but within weeks Cloud was drawing recognizable shapes. Trees, the house, storm clouds. We were building a language together. Not just verbal, though Cloud was learning more words every week, but a complete system of communication through gesture, sound, image, and gift. By summer 1987, now a year since I'd found Cloud, the creature's language comprehension was extraordinary. Cloud understood complex sentences, followed multi-step instructions, could communicate needs and wants through a combination of words, sounds, and gestures. "Cloud, can you check if the rain gauge needs emptying?" I'd ask. Cloud would nod, walk to the gauge, inspect it, and either empty it or return to tell me, through gestures, that it was fine. But more impressive was the emotional communication. Cloud could tell when I was stressed about work, would bring me things, a smooth stone, a cup of tea I'd left in the barn, the blanket from that first night, as if trying to comfort me. And when Cloud was upset or confused, the creature would come find me, would sit close, would make a specific sound that meant, "I need you here with me." We were family now. That's what we'd become. And I'd stopped questioning whether that was right or wrong. I just accepted it. The moment I knew this was real, permanently, irrevocably real, came in August 1987, exactly 1 year after the storm. A severe thunderstorm rolled through, nothing like the one that had brought Cloud to me, but significant enough to trigger memories. I was in my data center monitoring it when I heard Cloud making distressed sounds in the barn. I ran out and found the creature huddled in the corner, wrapped in that original blanket from the first night, shaking. "Hey," I said, sitting beside Cloud. "It's okay, it's just a storm." Cloud looked at me with wide, frightened eyes, made a sound that was clearly a question. "The storm. My family. Where?" My heart broke. Cloud was remembering being lost and alone and terrified. I wrapped my arms around the creature. "I don't know where they are," I said honestly, "but I'm here. I'm not leaving you. You're safe with me." Cloud clung to me and cried, actual tears running down that young face. We sat like that for an hour, holding each other while the storm passed overhead. When the thunder finally faded, Cloud pulled back and looked at me, then very deliberately touched my chest and made a sound. "Home." "Yes," I whispered. "This is home. I'm home." Cloud nodded, seemed satisfied with that answer. The fear faded from those intelligent eyes, and I realized with terrible clarity I'd become Cloud's parent, not a caretaker, not a guardian, a parent, which meant I'd also become something else, the person who had taken a child from its real family and convinced it to forget them. In October 1988, 2 years after finding Cloud, I had a close call that nearly destroyed everything. A colleague named Dr. Patricia Morrison, lead researcher for the National Weather Service's Pacific Northwest Division, called to schedule an unexpected site visit. Budget review required inspecting all contracted weather stations. She'd be bringing a team of 3. They'd need access to all equipment, all structures, all data logs. They'd be on my property for 8 hours, maybe longer. Cloud was now nearly 4 years old and roughly 5 feet tall, too big to hide in the barn, too aware to stay completely silent. If the team did a thorough inspection, which they absolutely would, they'd find evidence, footprints, hair, Disturbed areas where Cloud played. Or worse, they'd find Cloud. The visit was scheduled for November 3rd. I had 3 weeks to prepare. I explained everything to Cloud as best I could. People are coming. My work people. They can't know about you. If they find you, bad things will happen. They'll take you away. They'll study you. Hurt you maybe. We have to hide you. Cloud understood. Those intelligent eyes showed fear, but also trust. Trust that I'd protect them. I prepared the crawl space under the house, insulated it, put in ventilation, stocked it with food and water and books, soundproofed it as best I could. The day before the visit, I moved Cloud into the crawl space. I'll be right above you, I promised. 8 hours, maybe 10. Stay quiet. If you hear voices, don't move. Don't make any sound. Cloud nodded, hugged me tight, whispered in that rough voice. Careful, Daniel. Safe. I'll be safe, I said. You just focus on staying hidden. The next morning, Dr. Morrison and her team arrived at 7 a.m. The inspection was thorough. More thorough than I'd expected. They checked every sensor, every data logger, every calibration record. They toured the barn, examined my equipment shed, walked the entire property reviewing sensor placement. Dr. Morrison was sharp. She noticed things. Your barn shows unusual wear patterns, she said. Something heavy moving across the floor regularly. Are you storing equipment in there? Just tools, I said, my throat tight. I do repairs there. Move things around. She nodded, but didn't look convinced. At noon, they took a lunch break in my kitchen. I made sandwiches with shaking hands, hyper-aware that Cloud was directly beneath us. I could hear small sounds, shifting, breathing. Sounds I prayed were masked by the refrigerator hum and the team's conversation. Dr. Morrison looked at me strangely. Daniel, are you all right? You seem extremely anxious. Just tired, I said. Late night monitoring yesterday's system. Your data quality has been excellent, she said. But your personal logs show some gaps. Days where you didn't follow standard notation protocols. Is something distracting you? Everything was distracting me. A 4-year-old Bigfoot living under my house. A secret that would destroy my career and possibly get Cloud killed if anyone discovered it. The crushing weight of living a double life for 2 years. I'll be more careful, I said. They finally left at 4 p.m. 9 hours. I stood at the window and watched their vehicles disappear down my long driveway. Then I ran to the crawl space entrance. Cloud was huddled in the far corner, wrapped in blankets, eyes wide and frightened. The creature had been silent for 9 hours, completely still, terrified but disciplined. It's over, I said, crawling in. They're gone. You did perfect. You were so good. Cloud launched into my arms, shaking, made distressed sounds that broke my heart. I know, I whispered. I know that was scary, but you're safe. They didn't find you. But as I held Cloud in that dark crawl space, I realized something terrible. This couldn't continue forever. Cloud was still growing, still getting bigger and harder to hide. Eventually, someone would discover us. And when that happened, I'd lose everything. My career, my reputation, my freedom. And worst of all, I'd lose Cloud. For weeks after the inspection, I was paranoid. Every phone call made me jump. Every car on the road near my property sent my heart racing. But nothing happened. Dr. Morrison filed her report. My station passed review. Everything continued normally. Except it wasn't normal. Cloud sensed my fear. Became more cautious, more withdrawn. Stopped leaving gifts. Stopped exploring the property, even at night. The joy we'd found together was being poisoned by my anxiety. One evening in late November, I was sitting on my porch watching sunset. Cloud was in the barn. We'd fallen back into keeping the creature confined more. Trapped by my paranoia, I heard a sound behind me. Turned to find Cloud standing in the doorway, holding something. The blanket from that first night. Worn and faded now, but still the same blanket. Cloud walked over and draped it over my shoulders, then sat beside me. Storm coming, Cloud said quietly in that rough voice. The creature pointed at the sky where clouds were building to the west. Always scared when storms come. My eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, I said. I've been so scared of losing you that I forgot to just be with you. Cloud leaned against me. Not lose, the creature said. Home, you said. This is home. We sat together watching that storm roll in. When the first drops started falling, Cloud didn't flinch, didn't hide, just sat beside me, trusting that I'd keep them safe. You're braver than I am, I said quietly. That inspection terrified me, but you stayed calm. You trusted me. Cloud looked up at me. You protect Cloud. Cloud protects Daniel. Family. Yes, I whispered. Family. The storm passed quickly. Just a minor system. When the rain stopped, Cloud stood and held out a hand. I took it and let the creature pull me to my feet. Show Daniel something, Cloud said. Cloud led me to the equipment shed. Inside, carefully arranged on a shelf, were dozens of rocks. All the gifts Cloud had given me over 2 years. I'd kept every single one. Cloud scared too. the creature said. Scared Daniel will leave. Scared bad people will come. But Cloud trusts Daniel. So Cloud makes gifts. Reminds Daniel that Cloud loves Daniel. I knelt down to Cloud's level. I'm never leaving you, I said. No matter what happens. No matter who finds out. You're mine and I'm yours. Nothing changes that. Cloud touched my face, a gesture the creature had learned from me. Nothing changes, Cloud repeated. And I understood. Real family isn't about keeping secrets or living in fear. It's about choosing to stay, choosing to trust, choosing to believe that the bond is stronger than any threat. I'd been so focused on protecting Cloud from the world that I'd forgotten to show Cloud the most important thing, that my love wasn't conditional on perfect hiding. It was permanent, regardless of consequences. From that night on, I stopped living in fear. Cloud needed me present, not paranoid. Whatever happened, we'd face it together. Over the next 4 years, from late 1988 through early 1993, Cloud grew from a child into something resembling a teenager. The creature reached 6 feet tall by age 6, then kept growing. More independent, more capable, but still deeply bonded to me. Those years weren't just about hiding anymore. They were about learning. Both of us learning. Cloud teaching me things I'd never understood, and me finally understanding what it meant to be fully present with another being. Spring 1989. Cloud was 5 years old and becoming fascinated with my work. Would watch me record data, track systems, make forecasts. One morning I was analyzing a developing low-pressure system, trying to predict when it would arrive. My model said late afternoon, but something felt off. The data was contradictory. Cloud was standing beside me, looking at my weather maps. The creature made a questioning sound and pointed outside. What? I asked. Cloud took my hand and led me outside, pointed to the western horizon where high cirrus clouds were forming, then pointed to the oak tree near the house, where leaves were rustling in a way that indicated surface wind shifting. Cloud gestured to the atmospheric signs. I'd been so focused on my instruments that I'd stopped actually observing. You're right, I said, watching the actual weather instead of my screens. It's coming sooner, maybe mid-morning. Cloud nodded, satisfied. The system arrived at 11 a.m., 3 hours earlier than my models predicted. But Cloud had known, had read the actual atmosphere instead of the data. I've spent 20 years looking at instruments, I said that evening. I forgot how to look at the sky itself. You just taught me how to observe again. Cloud smiled, a gesture the creature had learned from me. Instruments good, but sky better teacher. Fall 1989. Cloud was struggling with coordination, growing too fast, now nearly 6 feet tall, and the creature's body wasn't keeping up. Cloud would knock things over, misjudge distances, stumble frequently. One evening, Cloud accidentally broke one of my rain gauges. The creature immediately broke down crying, convinced I'd be angry. Hey, I said, kneeling beside Cloud. It's okay, it's just equipment. It can be replaced. Cloud too big, the creature said miserably. Too clumsy. Ruins Daniel's things. You're not ruining anything, I said. You're growing. That's what kids do. They grow and they're awkward and they break things. It's normal. Cloud looked at me with those expressive eyes. Daniel patient with Cloud. Of course I am. You're my kid. Kids break things. Hell, I broke my dad's car antenna when I was 16. It happens. Cloud thought about this. Daniel's dad patient with Daniel. I paused, remembering. My father had been furious about the antenna, had yelled at me for being careless and irresponsible. No, I admitted. He wasn't patient. He was angry. Made me feel like I'd destroyed something irreplaceable. Daniel better, Dad, Cloud said simply. My throat tightened. I'm trying to be. Over the following months, I watched Cloud grow with new appreciation. Every broken piece of equipment, every clumsy moment, every mistake, I met with patience instead of frustration. Because Cloud was teaching me something my own father never learned. That growth is messy, that learning requires failing, and that patience is how you show love to someone still becoming themselves. Summer 1990. Cloud was 6 years old and I was trying to explain atmospheric physics. How storms formed, why lightning happened, what caused thunder. Cloud listened politely but seemed disengaged, then made a frustrated sound. What's wrong? I asked. Too many words, Cloud said. Daniel explains and explains, but forgets to watch. Watch what? Cloud pointed to the sky where a thunderstorm was building. Beautiful anvil-shaped cumulonimbus, probably 40,000 feet tall. Lightning flickering inside the cloud structure. Daniel knows how storm works, Cloud said. But does Daniel see how beautiful? I looked at the storm, really looked at it. Not as data or atmospheric conditions or a phenomenon to predict, just as something beautiful, powerful, awe-inspiring. When Cloud was baby, the creature said quietly, storm separated Cloud from family. Storm was scary, but now Cloud watches storms and sees. Cloud struggled for words. Sees something bigger than Cloud, bigger than Daniel. Something that doesn't need explaining, just needs watching. We sat together on the porch for an hour, watching that storm. I didn't record data. Didn't take measurements. Just watched the lightning. Felt the thunder in my chest. Smelled the ozone in the air. "You're right," I said finally. "I've been so focused on understanding that I forgot to just experience, to feel wonder." Cloud nodded. "Understanding good, but wonder better. Wonder is why Cloud loves storms even though storm took family away. Because storms are... Cloud searched for the word. "Sublime," I offered. "Sublime," Cloud repeated, testing the word. "Yes, storms sublime." I'd spent my entire career reducing weather to data points. Cloud reminded me why I'd chosen meteorology in the first place. Because storms made me feel small and connected to something vast and powerful and beautiful. Winter 1991. I was stressed about money. Equipment upgrades were expensive. My consulting contracts weren't covering costs. Cloud found me at my desk, looking at bills with growing anxiety. The creature studied the papers, confused. "What are these?" Cloud asked. "Bills. Money I owe for equipment, electricity, supplies." Cloud picked up one of the bills. "Paper says Daniel owes money. But Daniel has house, has food, has equipment. Daniel has everything Daniel needs." "It's not that simple," I started to explain. "I need money to keep having those things. To pay for electricity, to buy food, to..." "But Daniel has those things now," Cloud interrupted. "Right now, Daniel is okay. Why worry about later? Because later will come and I need to be prepared." Cloud looked at me seriously. Cloud's family didn't have money, had no bills, but had everything needed. Food from forest, shelter from caves and trees, family to stay warm with. Humans make life complicated, make paper that says you need things you already have. I tried to argue, but Cloud wasn't wrong. I had food in my refrigerator right now. Had heat, had shelter. The bills were about maintaining a system, not about actual immediate survival. "Humans always thinking about later," Cloud continued. "Always worried about what don't have, never happy with what do have. Makes humans tired and scared all the time." Over the following weeks, I started questioning my relationship with money and security. Yes, I needed income. But how much of my stress was about actual needs versus artificially created wants? How much of my isolation was because I'd convinced myself I needed expensive equipment and a large property instead of connection and community? Cloud lived with radical simplicity. Eat when hungry, sleep when tired, be present with what is rather than anxious about what might be. The creature had nothing and lacked nothing. I had everything and felt like it was never enough. Spring 1992. Cloud was now nearly 7 years old and massive, approaching 6'8", probably 300 pounds. The creature had grown into something that could easily survive alone in the forest. One evening, I said something I'd been thinking about for months. "You know you could leave, right? You're big enough now to survive on your own. You could go back to the forest, find your own territory. You don't need me anymore." Cloud stared at me with something like horror. "Daniel wants Cloud to leave." "No, God, no, I worry I'm keeping you from the life you should have, from finding your own kind, from being what you're supposed to be." Cloud came and sat directly in front of me, put both massive hands on my shoulders. "Cloud survived storm alone when baby," the creature said carefully. "Cloud lived in forest alone for days, was surviving, but was dying inside. Not body dying, here dying." Cloud touched its chest. Without family, without connection, Cloud was just waiting to stop. The creature's eyes were intense. Then Daniel found Cloud. Daniel gave Cloud not just food and shelter. Daniel gave Cloud reason to wake up, reason to learn, reason to exist as more than just surviving. "But you could have that with your own kind. Cloud's kind is Daniel," Cloud said firmly. "Cloud doesn't need same body. Cloud needs same heart. And Daniel has same heart as Cloud. Both lonely before. Both needed connection to be whole. Separation would kill Cloud worse than any storm." My vision blurred with tears. "I love you so much," I whispered. "Love means staying," Cloud said. "Not because have to, because choose to." Cloud chooses Daniel. Every day. Forever. I understood then what I'd been missing my entire life. Connection isn't a luxury. It's not something you add to survival. It is survival. The technical definition of living versus the actual experience of being alive. I'd survived 47 years before finding Cloud, but I hadn't been truly alive until someone needed me, and I needed them back. Early 1993. Cloud was now 7 years old, nearly fully grown. We'd been together for almost 7 years, longer than I'd been married to Linda, longer than any relationship I'd ever maintained. One evening in May, Cloud and I were sitting on the porch watching another storm build. Cloud loved storms now, not despite the trauma, but because of it. The creature had transformed the worst moment of its life into something beautiful through years of recontextualization. "Daniel," Cloud said quietly, "if Cloud's first family came back, if they found Cloud, what would Daniel do?" My heart stopped. "Why are you asking that?" "Sometimes Cloud dreams about them," the creature said. "Remembers sounds, smells, feelings. Don't remember faces, but remembers something. Feeling of before. I swallowed hard. If they came back, I'd let you go, if that's what you wanted. If you needed to be with them. Cloud looked at me. Would Daniel be okay? No, I said honestly. I'd be destroyed. But your happiness matters more than my pain. That's what love is. Cloud nodded slowly. Cloud thinks if first family came back, Cloud would be happy to see them, but would also be sad to leave Daniel. Because this is home now. Daniel is home. Home isn't the property, I said. Home is wherever we're together. Yes, Cloud agreed. Daniel understands. Home is not place. Home is person who sees you, who knows you, who chooses you even when is hard. We sat in silence, watching the storm. Neither of us knew that in 3 weeks, Cloud's words would be tested in the most impossible way. Neither of us knew that Cloud's first family was about to return, and that I would have to choose between keeping my home and doing what was right. By June 1993, I was 54 years old. Not old by human standards, but feeling the weight of 7 years of secrecy, stress, and constant vigilance. Cloud was 7, likely equivalent to a human teenager or young adult. Fully grown now, massive, beautiful, and increasingly aware that our situation couldn't last forever. We both knew time was running out. Not in terms of death, we both had decades left presumably, but in terms of this hidden life we'd built together. Cloud was too big to hide, too visible. Eventually, someone would see. Someone would report. Someone would come asking questions. Cloud had started talking about the future. When Cloud is older, will Daniel still be here? Of course, I'd say. But Daniel will get old. We'll get sick someday. Like all humans. What happens to Cloud then? I didn't have an answer. I'd been so focused on hiding Cloud in the present that I hadn't planned for a future where I couldn't protect the creature anymore. We'll figure it out, I'd say. But we both knew that wasn't a plan. The truth was haunting both of us. This couldn't last. Something would eventually break this perfect isolation we'd built. And when it did, we'd be separated, either by discovery, by my death, or by circumstances we couldn't control. In those final weeks, our physical closeness increased. Cloud would sleep in the house now, on the floor beside my bed, would rest a massive hand on my shoulder while I worked, would sit so close on the porch that we were touching. It wasn't romantic or inappropriate. It was the desperate clinging of two beings who knew their time together was finite, like terminally ill patients holding hands, like soldiers before deployment, like any family facing inevitable separation. One evening, Cloud said, "Cloud doesn't want Daniel to ever die." "I know, buddy, but that's how life works. Everything ends eventually." "Not fair," Cloud said, voice breaking. "Finally found family, finally have home, and someday we'll lose again." I pulled Cloud into a hug. Difficult given the size difference, but we made it work. "That's why we make every day count," I said. "Why we appreciate what we have while we have it." But I was terrified too. Terrified of leaving Cloud alone. Terrified of dying and abandoning this creature who'd trusted me with everything. June 10th, 1993. 3 days before everything changed. A severe storm was approaching, unusual for June, but the atmospheric conditions were perfect. It would arrive around 2 a.m. Cloud was excited. Big storm, like the storm that brought Cloud to Daniel. We stayed up together, watching it approach on my instruments. When it finally hit, we went out on the covered porch and watched the lightning, felt the thunder, smelled the rain. Cloud was entranced. "Still beautiful," the creature said. "Still sublime. Even though storm is why Cloud lost first family. Even though storm is scary, still beautiful." I watched Cloud's face illuminated by lightning flashes. Saw the wonder there, the joy, the complete presence in the moment. "You've taught me so much," I said. "About patience, about wonder, about what actually matters. I was so lost before you, so disconnected from everything real." Cloud looked at me. Daniel saved Cloud's life, but Cloud saved Daniel's life too. Different kind of saving. Saved Daniel from loneliness, from forgetting how to feel. We stood there in the storm, two beings who should never have met, who had become each other's entire world. "Whatever happens," I said, "I want you to know, these 7 years have been the best of my life. Better than my career, better than my marriage, better than anything. Because they were real. Because you were real with me." Cloud leaned down and pressed its forehead to mine. Cloud's whole life is with Daniel. Every memory, every good thing. All Daniel. We stayed like that for a long time, the storm raging around us, both of us crying, both of us knowing somehow that change was coming. We just didn't know it would come in 3 days. June 13th, 1993. Dawn. I woke to a sound outside my window, a sound I'd never heard before. Deep, rumbling vocalizations. Multiple voices. Not Cloud's voice. Other voices. I scrambled out of bed, my heart hammering. Looked out the window. 3 enormous Bigfoots were standing in my front yard near my weather station equipment. 2 females and 1 male, all adult-sized. Had to be 7 to 8 feet tall. They were examining my instruments with obvious confusion, touching the sensors carefully, making soft sounds to each other. They were looking for something, searching, and then I understood. The storm 3 nights ago, the unusual June thunderstorm. They'd come back to the location where they'd lost their infant 7 years ago, hoping to find their child. Cloud's family had returned. I heard movement behind me. Cloud was awake, standing in my bedroom doorway. The creature's face showed shock, confusion, and something else. Recognition. Not conscious memory, but something deeper. A feeling, a knowing. "Daniel," Cloud whispered. "Are those? I think they're your family," I said, my voice shaking. Cloud moved to the window. The 3 adults in the yard suddenly went still. The larger female's head snapped toward the house. She'd heard us, or smelled us, or sensed us. She made a loud, urgent sound. The other 2 immediately looked toward the house. "They know you're here," I said. Cloud's breathing was rapid, panicked. "What do I do?" I looked at my watch, 5:47 a.m. In exactly 3 hours and 13 minutes, my quarterly inspection team would arrive. Dr. Morrison and 3 colleagues, coming to calibrate equipment and review data. 3 hours to reunite Cloud with its family, hide all evidence of 7 years of cohabitation, and prevent my entire career from imploding. "We need to go out there," I said. "Right now." Cloud and I walked out onto the porch together. The 3 adult Bigfoots stared at us. The larger female, Cloud's mother, had to be, made a sound that was clearly recognition mixed with disbelief. She took 3 steps forward, stopped, made another sound. Questioning, urgent, desperate. Cloud stood frozen beside me. Cloud doesn't remember them. Knows them, but doesn't remember. The mother made a more insistent sound. She was crying, actual tears running down that massive face. "Go," I whispered to Cloud. "Go to them." "Scared," Cloud whispered back. "I know, but they're your family. They've been looking for you for 7 years. They never stopped." Cloud took 1 step forward, then another. The 3 adults watched intently. When Cloud was maybe 15 feet from them, the mother rushed forward. She wrapped her massive arms around Cloud, making sounds that were unmistakably grief and joy and relief all mixed together. Cloud stood stiffly in her embrace, uncertain, not remembering. But slowly the creature's arms came up and hugged back. The other female, Cloud's aunt maybe, or an older sibling, joined the embrace. Then the male, all 4 of them holding each other, making sounds that needed no translation. Family. Lost. Found. Love. I stood on the porch, tears streaming down my face, watching Cloud be welcomed home by the family I'd taken them from. They stayed like that for maybe 10 minutes. Then Cloud pulled back and looked at me. The creature's face showed confusion, conflict, not knowing what to do. Cloud's mother followed the gaze, saw me. Her expression hardened. She made a low, rumbling sound that was clearly warning. "Stay away. Mine, not yours." "It's okay," I called out. "I'm not trying to keep Cloud from you. I found Cloud during a storm 7 years ago. I took care of them because no one else was there. But Cloud belongs with you." The mother studied me for a long moment, then looked at Cloud and made a questioning sound. "This is the human, the one who took you?" Cloud responded in their language, sounds and gestures I couldn't fully understand. But the message was clear. Not took, saved, protected, loved. The mother's expression softened slightly. She looked at me again, made a different sound. Gratitude mixed with grief. Then she gestured to Cloud. "Time to go. Time to come home." Cloud looked between us. "Mother, me, family, family. You have to go with them," I said, my voice breaking. "This is what's right. This is what should have happened 7 years ago." "But Daniel." "I'll be okay," I lied. "You need to be with your real family." Cloud walked back to me slowly. The 3 adults watched warily but didn't stop the creature. When Cloud reached the porch, the creature knelt down. Our heights were so different now, and took my hands. "Cloud never forgets Daniel," the creature said. "Never forgets home. Never forgets 7 years of family." "I'll never forget you either," I whispered. Cloud pulled something from the thick fur at its side. The carved wooden bird, the same one Cloud's mother's friend had given me during that reconciliation. 7 years of carrying it. "Keep," Cloud said, pressing it into my palm. "Remember, Cloud." Then Cloud did something that destroyed me. Pressed our foreheads together one last time. "Thank you for finding Cloud in storm," the creature whispered. "Thank you for teaching Cloud to love storms instead of fear storms. Thank you for being Cloud's first family." Cloud stood and walked back to the 3 adults. The mother wrapped an arm around Cloud protectively, made a final sound toward me. Respect, perhaps, or apology, or just acknowledgement of what we'd shared. Then they turned and walked toward the tree line. Cloud looked back twice. On the second look, the creature raised one hand in a gesture I'd taught. "Goodbye." I raised mine back. Then they stepped into the forest and disappeared. I stood alone in my yard, holding that carved bird as the sun rose on my empty property. I never saw Cloud again. I'm 74 years old now. It's been 31 years since Cloud left. I stayed on the Olympic Peninsula for another 12 years after that morning, continued my meteorology work, continued publishing data, pretended everything was normal, but nothing was normal. The house felt cavernous. The silence was crushing. Every storm reminded me of Cloud standing on the porch, face upturned to the sky, saying, "Sublime." I retired in 2005 and moved to a small apartment in Seattle. Closer to people, though I still didn't connect with them. I tried, went to coffee shops, joined a book club, but after 7 years of the most profound connection of my life, surface-level human interaction felt hollow. I'm sharing this story now because I'm dying. Pancreatic cancer, 6 months, maybe less. And before I go, I need to confess what I did. Need to acknowledge the truth I've been hiding for 3 decades. Here's what Cloud taught me about being human. What I learned from raising a creature that showed me how disconnected I'd become from everything that mattered. We've forgotten how to observe. We're so focused on measuring and documenting and analyzing that we've stopped actually seeing. Cloud watched the sky with pure attention. No agenda, just presence. That's wisdom. We've forgotten that growth is messy, and that's okay. Cloud broke things, made mistakes, stumbled through development. And I learned that patience isn't tolerating imperfection, it's celebrating the messy process of becoming. We've forgotten that wonder is more important than understanding. I spent 20 years explaining atmospheric physics and missed the actual sublimity of storms. Cloud remembered. Reminded me that some things should be felt, not explained. We've complicated survival into suffering. Cloud lived with radical simplicity. Needed food, shelter, connection. Nothing else. We've built systems that create artificial needs and then stress about meeting them. We've forgotten that connection isn't optional, it's survival. Not biological survival, soul survival. The difference between existing and living. I was surviving before Cloud. I wasn't living. And finally, home isn't a place. It's who sees you, who knows you, who chooses you even when it's hard. Cloud was my home for 7 years, and when Cloud left, I became homeless again, no matter where I physically lived. Cloud wasn't mine, never was. I stole 7 years from a family that had been searching, grieving, hoping their child was still alive somewhere. Yes, I saved Cloud's life that night in the storm. But I also kept Cloud from the family that would have eventually found them if I just left them in the forest. I told myself I was protecting Cloud, but really I was protecting myself. From loneliness, from meaninglessness, from having to face that I'd built a life where no one needed me and I didn't know how to need anyone. Cloud was a gift I wasn't supposed to keep, and when the time came to give that gift back, it nearly killed me. But it was right. It was what should have happened. And the fact that it destroyed me doesn't make it less right. I still have that carved bird. It's on my nightstand right now, in hospice. Sometimes nurses ask about it. I tell them it's from a friend I lost. They nod sympathetically, thinking I mean a human friend who died. I don't correct them. But when I'm alone, when the morphine makes the boundaries between memory and present blur, I pick up that bird and I remember. Remember Cloud's face the first time I saw it, terrified and alone and depending on me to make the right choice. Remember teaching Cloud to speak, to laugh, to see beauty in the things that had traumatized them. Remember 7 years of not being alone, of mattering to someone, of being seen and known and chosen. Remember Cloud's face that last morning, torn between 2 families, choosing the right one even though it hurt. And I understand. Love isn't keeping. Love is letting go when holding on would be selfish. I failed that test for 7 years, but in the end, I passed. I let Cloud go home, even though it meant I had to go back to being homeless. If you take anything from this story, if you remember anything after I'm gone, remember this. The creatures are real. They're out there. They're more intelligent, more emotionally complex, more capable of connection than we imagine. And some of them are lost, separated from their families, alone, scared. Here's what I need you to do. First, if you ever find something that shouldn't exist, something impossible that needs help, don't take it unless you're prepared to give it back. I wasn't prepared. I kept Cloud because I needed Cloud more than I cared about what was right. Don't make my mistake. Second, question your isolation. If you're living alone, working alone, convincing yourself you don't need connection, you're lying to yourself. I did it for 47 years. It almost destroyed me. Connection isn't weakness. It's the whole point. Third, watch storms. Actually watch them. Not the data, not the radar, the actual sky. Feel the thunder in your chest. Smell the ozone. Remember you're part of something vast and sublime and beyond your understanding. Cloud taught me that. Don't wait as long as I did to learn it. I don't know if Cloud is still alive. The creature would be 38 now, middle-aged maybe, possibly with a family of their own. I hope Cloud remembers me, remembers those 7 years we had together, remembers that even though I stole them from their family, I also loved them more than I knew I was capable of loving anything. I hope Cloud forgives me. And I hope Cloud is happy. Hope those 3 adults who came searching gave Cloud the life the creature should have had all along. The life I interrupted. I'm sharing this now because I need you to understand. The choice I made, to keep Cloud those 7 years, was wrong. But it was also the most human thing I ever did. We hurt what we love when we're scared of losing it. We hold on too tight. We convince ourselves we're protecting when really we're possessing. If you've ever loved something you had to let go of, you understand. If you've ever made a selfish choice that felt like love at the time, you understand. Share this if you've ever been that lonely. If you've ever needed someone so desperately that you made choices you knew were wrong. If you've ever had to choose between your happiness and doing the right thing. Comment if you believe there are things in these forests worth protecting, worth respecting, worth giving back to when we've taken from them. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories about the spaces between humans and everything else. About the connections we make across species, across understanding, across everything that should divide us, but somehow doesn't. And if you're out there, Cloud, wherever you are, I hope you know, those 7 years were the only time in my entire life I was truly alive. You made me human in a way I'd never been before. Thank you for teaching me how to see storms as sublime instead of just data. Thank you for showing me what home actually means. Thank you for forgiving me enough to go back to your real family when they came for you. I'll see you again someday, in whatever clearing waits for meteorologists who loved too selfishly and creatures who loved too generously. Until then, watch the storms for me. They're still sublime.